Hello, I'm Peter Blackwood. I am rereading a book called Everyday Saints and Other Stories by Archimandrite Tekhon, and it's translated from Russian by Julian Henry Lowenfeld, and it's published in 2012 by Pskov publications. Now, Archimandrite Tekhon is a monk of the Pskov Caves Monastery, a Russian Orthodox community. He relates accounts of events surrounding his community, especially some of the extraordinary men of faith who have served God through this unique community. One of these was their treasurer. He's called Father Nathaniel, who by all accounts was eccentric, ascetic, and really difficult to work with. One of my favourite stories from the book is of Father Nathaniel's idea for coping with a confrontation between the civic and church authorities during the Soviet era in Russia. Let me read you this story. Father Nathaniel proved difficult to handle even for the mighty Soviet government, especially when it rudely attempted to interfere with our monastic life. It is said that none other than Father Nathaniel gave support and subtle advice to the great Father Superior, the saviour of the monastery, Archimandrite Tekhon, when the latter was under particularly heavy pressure from the crude persecutions of the Soviet authorities. This took place at the end of the 1960s. As you may know, all citizens of the Soviet Union were required to take part in elections. They brought a ballot box into the refectory of the monastery, where after dinner the Brotherhood, under the discontented, grumbling supervision of the abbot, rendered unto Caesar what was Caesar's. But it turned out that the first secretary of the regional Communist Party, secretary for Pskov province, had found out that unheard of privileges were being given to these savage monks. They were being allowed to vote, unanimously of course, for the one and only slot on the ballot, the Communist Party over there, not at the local polling place like everyone else, but there in the obsolete historical ruin of a monastery. The first secretary of the Communist Party was quite indignant about this, and he threw a fit, raging at his underlings and mercilessly rebuking them for allowing such unacceptable lenience to activistic, deviant, non-working class elements of society. He immediately demanded that from now on and forever, those black beetles must come and vote for the members of the Supreme Soviet of the USSR like all good Soviet citizens, at their polls, in their electoral districts, strictly according to their place of residence. It was then, so people say, that Father Nathaniel whispered into the ear of the monastery's abbot, Archimandrite Tekhon, a piece of advice that was both innocent and extremely subtle in its defiance. On election day, and as always it was a Sunday, after the festal liturgy was served in the monastery, from the monastery's gates came streaming forth a magnificent procession of the cross, with priests bearing crosses and icons paired into two columns in a long line, singing hymns, and in full ceremonial dress. The troops of monks paraded through the entire town towards the polling place. Their ancient banners fluttered in the wind as they marched, carrying their traditional crosses and ancient icons. But this was not all. As is the required custom before any important action, right in the middle of the polling place, the entire clergy began to pray out loud. The bureaucrats were frightened to death and tried to protest against this, but Father Tekhon firmly interrupted them, lecturing that they were interfering with citizens' rights to express themselves and carry out their constitutional duties as they were required to do. Having voted, the monks marched back with similar ostentatious ceremony into their holy monastery. Needless to say, when the next elections came around, the ballot box was once again waiting for the monks on the table of the monastery refectory.